You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a wash machine.
With a scooping header
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans. My name is Matt Markstone. I'm the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thank you for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. We are done with the festival fixtures. We are officially through the holiday fixture list, and we've had some results that have been surprising, both good and bad. We've come through there with the win against Arsenal that I'm not sure we saw coming, a draw away to Chelsea, a clean sheet, which hasn't happened there at Stamford Bridge in quite some time. So overall, some really good things. But then, we have the draw against Derby County and the loss to West Ham, and you start to, kind of think about where we are exactly. And to tell you the truth, I think we're exactly where Osman said we would be, in the middle of a serious kind of issue where we're going to be working for Premier League survival. And his plan is going to take some time, and I think it will all come together. But overall, just results aside, the fact that we're in the relegation zone, even, I think we're all feeling pretty good, and at least I am. And I think it's just because we have a plan in place, and he's been clear about the plan, and that's kind of all it takes for me to get behind it, is that I know what we're doing, which is nice. This is the first episode recorded in 2019, so welcome. Thank you for being here. This is episode 104. It's officially 2 years of having the show up and running every week. So that's kind of a cool thing. And we did a big celebratory thing for episode 100. And one of those things that we did was we launched the Patreon site. So if you are interested in supporting the show, you can become a Patreon over at patreon.com/SFC Delivery. There are links in the show notes to do that. You get some extra stuff. You get an extra podcast if you are in that tier, but you get also an exclusive kind of chat with me and the other patrons. And then you also get priority for having your questions answered every week, except for this week because I forgot. Sorry, guys. Make it up to you somehow. I don't know how, but I will. So anyway, that is all stuff going on this week, and I'm joined by Aydin Osman, who is now at the Southampton page, which is the official partner page of the show. So thanks to Aydin, thanks to the Southampton page, and Jay, who will be here next week, who also is in charge of the page and actually oversees the whole thing. So thank you to him. But Aydin and I will talk about Derby, we'll talk about Chelsea, we'll talk about the departures of Stephen Davis, we'll talk about the debuts and some of the youth academy stuff, and that's basically the bulk of the show. We'll also take some listener questions from everybody, except for the patrons, because I forgot, like I said. So, but before we do that, the only thing that I wanted to say, or thought needed addressing, is the thing that we've seen with Fraser Forster over the past week. And there have been some notes that came out, and who knows, the validity of it. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about just the fact that even if it's not true, I think it's just a reminder that all of these guys and everyone, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, whether you have a career that you've always wanted, whether you are kind of feel like you're struggling to get your foot or your feet under you and get settled, or whether you're a kid going to university, it doesn't matter. We're all affected by kind of the things that people say, and people will argue that you need to toughen up and you need to be, not show that stuff. And that's fine if you want to believe that. But the truth is that people, myself included, I've suffered from depression. It's not something that, was encouraged to be discussed in my house. But that's something that I think needs to change. I think growing up that I was, it was something that you were taught to kind of hold in. And I think that, giving somebody a place to talk or someone to talk to, I think is a good thing. And I think that sometimes we think that these guys on the team are superheroes and they won't be affected by that, and they should be able to take that. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. So realized Fraser Forster had a pretty poor run of form, and I think we were right to be critical of him on the pitch. But I think it's just a reminder that we don't always understand what's going on outside of that, and maybe just a reminder to consider that, I guess, when we are doing things, when we're tweeting things, when I'm saying things on here about players. I think that's all part of what we should do as fans, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all want the team to perform well. And anyway, I hope that makes sense. I just think it needed to be addressed, and I hope that Forster finds his feet again, and I just want him to be okay, because that's really what we want for everybody, no matter which team you play for or which team you support. So anyway, let's move on to the conversation with Aydin Osman. You can find him on Twitter at Aydin_Osman96 and on Instagram at AydinOsman96. The links to those are in the show notes. And like I said, if you want to support the show, you can do that on patreon.com. And that is also in the show notes, and I would much appreciate it. So anyway, let's go. And here's my conversation with Aydin Osman. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. I'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Aydin Osman. You can find him on Twitter at Aydin_Osman or on Instagram at AydinOsman96. Actually, your Twitter handle is Aydin_Osman96, so I'll get that right. And you're now helping out with the Southampton page, which is the official partner page of the podcast. So thank you for the help you do in supporting the show and all that stuff. But welcome back. It's nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's good to be back. How are you?
I'm doing okay. A little frustrated. Daughter's had a cough, and so she was up a lot of the night, and it was just like she got up at like 3:30, and it was like that's a half hour before I wake up. So I just wanted that extra half hour of sleep, but it didn't happen. But that's okay. And I'll be honest, I'm a little frustrated about the result yesterday too. But we'll get to that in just a bit. How are you doing? I know you were supposed to be able to go to the game, and you wound up having to work. So I hope you feel okay about that anyway.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating, but I managed to get tickets for Leicester, which was good. Although it's a little frustrating because it's not a new end. But through means of my own, it means I'm in the players' lounge, so I can deal with that.
Yeah, you'll be all right. And then you were at Chelsea as well, so the day after New Year's, so that's not bad.
Yeah, that was a nice long trip. I went down to see some family as well, and then went to the game, and then got back at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is always fun.
Now, when you get back that late from the train station, you have to walk the rest of the way home, just through town, through Lincoln?
Well, actually, to be fair, from London to Lincoln, there wasn't any other trains. So I had to get a train to Newark and then pay £28 to get a taxi from Newark to my house because no one would pick me up. I think it was right out there waiting for me. And I had to do 15 minutes in the taxi on the way back to mine.
I guess that's not too bad. £28 is not cheap, but it's not too bad.
No, it's not. But if I were to get into Lincoln and then got a taxi from Lincoln to my house, it'd have been £4.20. So.
I'm sorry. I just found I was cleaning some stuff. I'm trying to organize my life, and I found my Oyster card from the time we were in London, and it still has like £5 on it. And I'm just looking at it, going like, "Oh wow, that's multiple trips inside zone 1 and 2. Damn it!" Like. But oh well. And if I can get my daughter to use it, that's even more, because I think it's actually her card, which means it's a child.
Oh, amazing!
So I probably can't use it, but
just hope you do another London away day. You'll be fine.
That's right. And it's a plan. I have to convince my wife that I can go by myself. I don't know if she's going to do that or not, so we'll see. Anyway,
not convincing.
Yeah. Either way, it'll be fine. So I don't know. So you're doing all right. We have two matches to talk about, and I mean, same result, right, from both of them, but a drastically different feeling for me coming out of both of them. So let's talk about Chelsea away, because I don't know, going into it, I don't know what you were expecting from the game. We were coming off two kind of not disastrous performances, but two kind of less than stellar performances in terms of results. It was always going to be difficult against Man City, but I think we kind of expected maybe a little bit more from West Ham. But I don't know, going into that Chelsea match, talking to some Chelsea fans, they weren't necessarily overly confident. They were feeling that some of the injuries they had maybe would have hampered them, and Giroud getting injured, and then pushing Hazard out wide and forcing Morata to come in. They weren't necessarily feeling great about that. But I mean, how are you feeling going into that match in terms of our chances of getting a point away at Stamford Bridge?
I was quietly confident now. I've always got this sort of optimistic thing these days. Since Arsenal Hilton's come in, it's just the way we set up against big teams now. We can seem to be like we have a plan of we're going to have a go at them in like some way. Obviously, Chelsea was a little bit different because for the first 45 minutes we were a bit really defensive. But as the game progressed in the second half, I thought we could have nicked the win. I think there were points where we were pushing forward and we were doing really well. We put them under a bit of pressure, but it's hard when you're away from home against the club that's got a player like Eden Hazard right in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of those players that is just, I mean, he's stellar, right? He's one of the most dangerous players in the league, and yeah, he's enjoyable to watch. He's nice to be able to watch run at people, as long as that those people aren't your defenders, then it's totally fine. But when he's playing against you, it's always a little bit scary because you know that he can kind of create something out of nothing, and he has the ability to change the game just like that. And I think that's maybe one of the things we've been lacking in our team is somebody who can do that. Maybe Nathan Redmond is growing into that as we move along. He's definitely come a long way from where he was a couple of seasons ago or last season even. So yeah, but just looking back over the lineup from that match, we definitely had some changes there. The back five's not necessarily a shock, but Gunn coming into goal there for McCarthy maybe deserves some talking points. Cedric coming in for Target, right? And then on the left, as Target was out injured and Bertrand still out injured, the back three of Yoshida, Vestergaard, and Bednarak. Ward-Prowse coming into the midfield instead of Lamina, who was also absent yesterday. And then the front three, I guess, is the front three you would have expected. But, I mean, I think the big change there is that we see Cedric as the one who's displaced in terms of he's put out of position. And so I think that maybe is maybe that says something about his future at the club. Maybe Valerie is what the manager wants to see. But then Ward-Prowse really taking a role in central midfield, which is one of those things we've talked about where he goes and what his role is at the club. So, I mean, what did you make about some of those choices in terms of who was placed where and maybe what that says about them?
I was a little bit surprised to see Gunn start in there, especially with like such a big high caliber game. I thought he might have waited until the cup to go. But he came in, he played really well, made some great saves, he was commanding. I think there was a few minutes to go where he came out of his area, the 18 yard to like head a ball clear. I don't think that's what McCarthy would have done, so he's kind of aggressive in his defensive stature. Cedric, I actually thought played really well in his first game back under the new manager. It felt like he had a point to prove. I always feel like when he plays on the left there, we're a little bit limited because he's not naturally left-footed. Right. So he kind of has to keep cutting back onto his right foot, so it's kind of predictable what he's going to do. But he played really, really well. Prowse did okay. He was good in the midfield. His passing was well. He was quite strong as well, which was nice to see. But his set pieces were a bit disappointing, and that's kind of what we associate him with being good at. So I didn't know how to interpret that. He was good at the stuff that he's not usually good at, and then he was poor at the stuff that he's usually good at. So I don't know how that works. But I don't think anyone in the side played bad. Ings looked a bit lackluster, but then obviously he comes off with a hamstring injury. Right. Long comes on, and no surprise he doesn't score. Which was but he worked hard, which is all you can say about him. But I did see him get nutmegged by David Luiz back heel. So
in terms of Ward-Prowse, some of those things that he is normally really, really good at, that we kind of have always said this is all he can do on the pitch, maybe wasn't up to what we would expect from him. But I think the rest of his game, and I think Hassan Hudl had said, we want to see him be more aggressive and use a bit more aggression and be a bit stronger. And I think he kind of took that to heart and did it. Ings, I think, was working through that injury, I think, all game, and I think that showed in his performance. And now he's going to be out for a couple of weeks, according to the manager. So that was that. But the one thing about Gunn was, we have that back three, and none of them are particularly pacey. And I think Yoshida is probably the fastest of all of them. And now he's out. So I think if we're going to play that back three, I think it's important that Gunn be alert and near the top of his box and willing to come for things like that. And of course, we'll say that until he misses one or somebody slips it by him and then scores on an open goal, and then we'll all turn on him probably. But this is, I really appreciate that, because I'm not sure McCarthy would have been. I'm not sure that's McCarthy's game. I mean, I think he's a different style of goalkeeper, and maybe Gunn fits the system a little bit better. Although I'll be honest that I've been a fan of having McCarthy in goal, and I don't think a lot of the goals that we've conceded have been his fault. But fair play to the manager for making a choice to go with Gunn and give him an opportunity. And I think even given the result yesterday at Derby, I think it's worked out pretty well to get in his first clean sheet in his first Premier League start. So not bad, especially against the Chelsea side, who I think everybody expected us to lose to, and we'd be lucky to get a point. But I think overall the entire team was really committed. You said we were kind of hanging on in the first half, but there were numerous times where guys were throwing themselves in front of shots to block them and things like that. So I think that's the kind of will and determination that we lost under Hughes that we maybe had. I think back to playing against Arsenal under Koeman, where Forster had that amazing game, but we also had everybody just diving in front of balls and things like that. I think we lost that over the past couple of seasons, and so it's nice to maybe see that back, but I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I completely agree with that. Everyone was, put their bodies on the line. They stood up and they'd been counted for. Yeah, we kind of lost it at the start of this season. Obviously, back in the last season when Hughes come in, I think everyone just pulled together to fight for our lives. And I think brought a little bit of it back then, but I think you're pretty much right in saying I've not seen a performance like that realistically since Arsenal away under Koeman, where Forster had that worldie and everyone's blocking everything on the line, and there's all 11 men in the box defending the corner and all the rest of it.
I guess so. For you being there in the away end on the 2nd of January, what was it like? And were people, I guess, upset at the fact that we weren't playing, on New Year's Day? Or did people not really seem to care as much? Or what was the mood like just from that regard? I
think everyone that went was just sort of like, here we go, we've just got to get behind the boys from minute one and hopefully we can get something. I think we all went out of more of hope to get something than expectation. But the fans that were there were excellent. Bar granted probably the Anglican chant, which would never be sung again in the history of English football. They were excellent. So I can't fault anyone that went, really, because we all went. We all sat there it wasn't exactly warm, but it wasn't exactly cold. We all stood there. I think the home atmosphere was a bit iffy, which got our atmosphere going a little bit better. I think it meant the players could hear us a bit more. Mm-hmm. So I think that really helped them. I think there were points where we got behind the players, especially when they were going forward and pressing it. The fans tend to got behind them, and the players seem to pick up a little bit more belief, which shows how important our support can be over the rest of the season. Looking through the match, were there any real moments that stood out to you that we should focus on, or was it kind of just a really good defensive performance and not much going forward, and we're okay with that because we got a point, and I think we all felt good about that at that point? It was a really solid defensive performance. We should all be proud of that. There wasn't much going forward. I think one of the talking points, I don't know if you saw it when you were watching the game live, but we had a free kick about, I don't know, probably, do you remember when we had that free kick against United and Cedric curls it into the top corner? Yes. We had a free kick in exactly the same position at Stamford Bridge. And Cedric's obviously playing, so he's stepped up like, oh yes, I bagged the last one, this is mine. And there was a little bit of a scuffle between him and Prowse over who was going to take it, which ended in Redmond carrying Cedric away because it was like, no, this is Prowse's. Only for Prowse to go and hit the free kick into the wall. So I think that probably went a little bit under the radar. but I don't know. You can't really fault Cedric for saying I want to take it, considering how emphatically he took the last one.
Yeah. And maybe that was because Ward-Prowse wasn't on the pitch that time. When he took that, and I don't know. We see this all the time. It seems like whenever there's an argument over a penalty or something like that, and then the guy doesn't put it away, there's always a little bit of a hangover from that. But obviously, this wasn't a penalty. This is something much different. And I don't know. It is what it is. But the likelihood of Cedric hitting that shot again, I don't
very
think
high.
So.
Very low even. Not very high. Very low even.
Yeah, but
you never know. Stranger things could happen. That could be his special ability, and we've just never seen it for the past 3 years.
It's true. But I mean, some of the things that I have written down about the game were just, they were well drilled, they were hardworking, and I thought one thing that we needed to point out was Valerie just having an outstanding first half and really an entire outstanding match, and that's one of the things I actually wanted to talk about was playing in this back three, back five with the wing back and stuff like that. I've thought Valerie has been really, really impressive. I haven't been as impressed with him or even Target in a back four, which I think we'll come to when we talk about Derby from yesterday. But I thought that the whole team worked hard and everything else, but I thought Valerie really stood out as a player who deserved some recognition for his performance, as well as Angus Gunn, who I thought was also pretty good. And the one thing you mentioned about Cedric constantly checking back onto his favorite right foot, there were a couple of times where his left foot would have been ideal in terms of there was an opening for a cross, and he just doesn't have the confidence in it, and so he doesn't do it. And sometimes it wasn't. There were a couple of opportunities where he checked back, and then the cross was blocked because he gave the defender the chance to recover. I don't know. I thought the only real time that we were really threatened was when Fabregas came on, and he was kind of finding ways to play passes through our midfield and through our defense. But luckily, Murata can't stay on side. So there we go.
Although I've seen the replay of that, I'm still not 100% sure whether he was off. It looks so tight. I can't. Even now, I'm looking at it thinking, I'm glad he's given it offside, but looking down the line, he must be literally centimetres offside.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was, but hey, sometimes the calls go your way and you just got to go with it. And
yeah,
I think that's one of those things one of those instances where even if we had VAR in place, whatever the linesman gives is going to stand because there's not going to be conclusive evidence one way or another, And so, because we didn't have VAR, I think there were some instances over the World Cup where you err on the side you let the play go. So you let Murata score and then you go check it. And I think had that happened, they would have let the goal stand. So I'm happy that the guy that we didn't have VAR in this instance, he raised his flag. It's called off. We move forward and we go out with a point because I don't think we were, probably scoring a goal that time. It didn't look like it.
No.
Maybe it changes, but I think the whole game plan was to go do what we did. And overall, really, really happy with that. That whole performance, but yeah.
Yeah, I think if we did have VAR and the goal stood, I think that would have killed us off. So, you take your wins and your losses with decisions like that. I think Tuesday, that was a win for us.
Yeah.
Another day we have a decision that goes against us and we're all screaming that we need VAR. So
yeah. I think we always want what suits us, right? We always want what means the best for us, and I think that's fine. It's just how life goes. So after the game, one thing that was shown was that Steven's 50th Premier League appearance. So congratulations to him. Didn't realize he had played that many matches for us, but I guess over the past couple of seasons with injuries and stuff, he's been in and around the team a lot. So that's it's good for him. But Yoshida's gone now to the Asian Cup, so he'll be gone for I think over a month. And does that worry you at all when you look at the rest of our defense and what we have to offer?
A tiny bit, yeah. I thought Yoshida was excellent. He got man of the match on Tuesday night when we went to Chelsea. Wednesday night even. Sorry, I can't think what day. Yeah, Wednesday night. Yeah, he was exceptional. He was blocking. He made some great tackles. But I thought Vestergaard played really well as well, and so did Bednarek. They just can't seem to play together for some reason. Stevens, I don't know. He was absolutely awful against City, and then I don't know. He's good cover, but realistically, he's not a bloke that you want to start with. Wesley Hoops disappeared off the face of the planet, which I'm guessing 99.9% of Saints fans are happy about. I don't know. I think maybe we could do with another centre back if we move Hoot on in this window and perhaps find someone else. That'd be probably ideal. And then you've got 3-4 fit centre backs, and then you've got Stevens like your last resort, basically.
Well, I mean, it's a bit it's a bit of a sticky situation, because if you have that many in the squad, either somebody has to be completely made irrelevant, basically, if you're only going to play a back four, or you sacrifice having an attacking player on the bench because you're going to have 3 center backs starting, plus you have to put another one on the bench in case something goes wrong. And so, now you look at the Derby game and you think, well, there's only a back four there. But either you do that, or you have to probably bring Hoot and put him on the bench, or you bring somebody up from the academy and put them on the bench that can play center back. Which I think Ramsey was on the bench yesterday. I could be wrong. If I scroll down in my notes, I could find it, but we'll get to it. But, so maybe, I don't know. I think there's some things that we need to do there. Vestergaard seems to fit the back three system just fine. He seems to do well when he's in it. There were a couple of times maybe he got not turned around, but people can run by him because he's not fast, and that's, oh well, that's the guy we bought.
But what he makes up for that with his size and stature, like aerially, defensively, he's exceptional.
Sure.
And he's strong, so like when the ball is whipped into a box, he's great going forward and going back, because 9 times out of 10 people will win that header. Yeah. And I think that's what we've missed since Van Dijk left.
And at the same time, one of the things that was pointed out to me when we got him by some people who had watched him intently in the Bundesliga was the fact that he positions himself well, that he reads the game pretty well, and he puts himself in good positions because he knows he doesn't have the pace, and so he kind of makes up for it just with his thought process and things like that. And so I think I don't think we can really complain about anybody during that match, but we'll get to the Derby match after that. And the unfortunate kind of thing coming out of all of this was that now we wound up in the relegation zone because of the Burnley result. And so we have to go into the FA Cup weekend off of a decent performance, a good performance, a decent point in the relegation zone, which is not what anybody wants. But I think we came through a really difficult December with putting Hasenhüttl in a really difficult situation even. And we've come through it, I think, about as well as we could have, I think.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. We picked up 7 points out of 6 games. Obviously, we didn't pick up points against teams that you expect us to, which was a nice change in the sense that we picked up 3 against Arsenal, 1 at Chelsea, and then 3 at Huddersfield. Mm-hmm. Huddersfield was a massive game. We had to win that. Obviously, fixtures come thick and fast in this division week in, week out. I think, though, our run towards the end of the season's looking all right, probably bar a 4-game period over February and March where we play Arsenal, United away, and then Tottenham at home, with Fulham at home thrown in. So that probably won't be a good period. It could be, you never know. But I think 9 times out of 10, we've got the fixtures in our favour as and when, because we go to Leicester now next Saturday, and then from that we've got Everton at home. Everton are in a bit of dip at the minute, so hopefully we can exploit that before playing Palace at home, who was the only team that we beat under Mark Hughes this season. So I'd be disappointed if we don't beat them under Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at some of the performances we've had away from home under Hasenhüttl, and they've been pretty good. You think, leave Cardiff alone, but like you think of Huddersfield, you think of Chelsea, like those were all good. And then Arsenal too, the team was up for that, and they did the job there. So hopefully when we go through that run, we'll be a bit more prepared for what we're doing. And I think we only have, now 3 midweek fixtures left, assuming we don't run into another replay in the FA Cup. But I think that will do well for Hassan Hudl for the style of play, and I think we'll see basically our strongest team. You won't have to see a bunch of rotation unless guys just aren't earning their spot back, which I think is totally fine. But yeah, let's move on to Derby County, because of course we played them in the preseason. They were a bit further along in their preseason training when we met them. They kind of wiped the floor with us. We didn't look good. And but I think what we saw yesterday was something completely different in terms of the team that was set out from the one that played against them. And I think everybody's making the joke that we have to call it Frank Lampard's Derby County, and whatever, we'll do it too, just because it seems to be the right thing to do. But I mean, the FA Cup, this is obviously the first round for Premier League teams, and so feeling pretty good. I think everybody gets excited for it, even if you want to say the magic of the cup is gone and all this other stuff. I think still that Saturday is a good day, although there weren't very many games on at the 3 p.m. slot, which I think a lot of the more traditional football fans maybe have a slight issue with. But were you excited about? Are you excited about the FA Cup, or do you think it's maybe something we shouldn't focus on?
I don't know. I'm always excited about the FA Cup and the League Cup. I can't stand it when our fans say, "Oh, let's sack this cup off. Let's sack this off." It really annoys me. The way I see it is, it's another game. It's another chance for us to win. I want us to win as many games as possible. It wasn't. We've been to Wembley for a semi-final and a final in the last 2 seasons. So why could we sack cups off? I mean, it's clear to see that we're going in the right direction in those competitions. We were very unfortunate not to pick up a trophy under Puel. You can't slack the competition off because it is a chance for silverware. I think just because the top 4 take their foot off the gas a little bit on it in the top 6, it doesn't mean that clubs like us couldn't have a go or couldn't get up behind it. Because realistically, it's going to be very, very, very hard for us to do a Leicester. And we can say, let's try and crack the top 6 again and get European football, but winning a trophy and doubling it, because if you win the cup, you're in automatic Europa League next season anyway. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't try and win it.
Yeah, I think maybe the only real argument I could see for maybe not taking the competition as seriously is saying that, Premier League survival in terms of the financial well-being of the club is super important. And I guess the momentum, there was no momentum or carryover from FA Cup wins last year to league form, and so I think that maybe that might be some of what people are talking about. But I'm saying this, I guess, as a fan with a different perspective, because I'm not, the Wembley experience for me is just waking up at a different time and watching the game. It's not the same as what the fans that go week in, week out, the fans who are at Derby County, the fans who went away to Cardiff, the fans who change plans so they can get to Chelsea, all of that stuff, for them to be able to go to Wembley and, inevitably pay exorbitant prices for seats and everything else. But to have that day, that EFL Cup final match, I mean, still is something that I remember, and I was just watching it on TV, so I can't even imagine what the atmosphere was like for you because you were at the stadium.
Yeah, I was there for both times, and it's one of those where you look at it, you wake up on the day, you just get that excitement. It's like any other day, and it's unlike any other day. You don't know, you never know what's going to happen, but you always wake up with that good feeling, and then you go down, you meet everyone, and then everyone goes to like one of the pubs beforehand, and everyone gets behind the team. I think it's just that EFL Cup final, I don't think I've ever heard an atmosphere from Saints fans compared to when Gabby Aydin equalised. Yeah. I think that actually gave me goosebumps in the stadium. I was like, wow. Because everyone thought we could have won it. The semi-final was a little bit different. I think, we did well, but it was a bit of a flat game. We didn't really play well, but we did well to get to where we were. Right. We kept Chelsea fairly quiet until then we turned to crocus, like it normally did under Hughes. But, it's just one of those where it doesn't come round every so often, so you have to make the most of it being there.
Yeah. And you definitely shouldn't take it for granted just because it's happened 2 years in a row that this is what happens. It's something that doesn't happen very often. We've only ever won, one major trophy. So to give yourself the chance to do that, I guess, is always something you should take seriously. And judging from the lineup yesterday, Hasenhüttl had mentioned that it would be a team that would fight, a team that would have energy and things like that. And I don't know if I can say this, but it seemed like maybe this is the first time that we didn't quite have that. West Ham aside, because I think we were just tired. Yesterday, I was happy with the selection until you got to the front line. And at that point, he's there aren't that many options for him, I guess, unless you're just going to chuck in the kids. But I think, he had to do what he did. But the back four of Cedric, Vestergaard, Stevens, and Targett. Okay, you look at what we have in the squad. Maybe Valerie is probably a little bit drained. Maybe you play Ramsey instead, but I don't know. And some people have some issues with Targett, which we'll talk about. Ward-Prowse in the middle again, I think off the back of a good performance, given the captain's armband, all good for him. Slattery next to him, I think a lot of people wanted to see him be given a chance. Redmond in the game, and then Elyounoussi, who didn't really play well again, which is becoming frustrating for a lot of people. But I mean, what did you make of that lineup, and were you happy with the way that the team was set up under Hasenhüttl?
Yeah, it seemed to go to his preferred formation that he played at Leipzig in the 4-2-2-2. So it's essentially 4-4-2, but you've got your holding midfielders and your wingers are put up more, so they're more sort of like right-sided and left-sided attacking midfielders than wingers. So their job is to be higher up the pitch. Closer to the strikers, and
tucked in a little bit, I think, for the fullbacks to get forward, right?
Yeah, to allow more sort of overlaps, and both Targett and Cedric love to overlap. I think it would 100% suit Bertrand as well when he comes back to full fitness, the overlapping, because we know how him and Redmond love to link up. Mm-hmm. I was overall quite happy with it. I don't think there was much more that you could say. Maybe I honestly could not tell you what the hell's going on with Gabby Aydin. Is he injured? Is he up for sale? I don't know. If he's injured, that's fair enough. But, you've got a quality player there and you're deciding to, play two people who literally have scored 2 goals all season and both of them come from Austin. So that's a little frustrating. Redmond, who's arguably been our player of the season, people might say Ings, but I think the way Redmond's improved this season now, especially under Ralph, he's improved his game a lot. Prowse deserved to keep his place. Slattery was good to see. We had 4 academy starters in, which was quite good, and then we had a few on the bench as well, and Marcus Barnes came on. I don't think he really did much. Tyreek Johnson came on, and then you had Valerie on the bench as well, and so was Ramsey. I don't know, with injuries and rotation and, maybe just, and we played midweek as well, maybe you just want to give more sort of the starting 11 a rest ahead of Leicester next week, because if we can go and get a win there, then suddenly, all looks a bit more better.
Yeah.
I can't really fault it.
No, and I think that the rotation was more, it was more for this game because the guys just weren't fit enough coming off of a midweek match to play again the style of play that we wanted to play, this time, rather than them not being ready for Leicester, maybe. Just because we have the full week between FA Cup day and Leicester and going back in the league with Leicester. But I was really happy to see a lot of the youth team players getting a chance. And it is really weird to look. I think we were all doing the same thing where we were looking at the U23 lineup, but we're looking at the pictures of the team getting on the bus and going to Derby and trying to figure out who's playing and who's got a chance and, all this stuff. And, you see some players who are now getting call-ups from the under 18s, the under 23s, and you can see how excited they are and they all want to go out and impress. And I think that starts a good buzz around all of Staplewood, I guess, that everybody's really looking for a chance to impress the manager, and he's actually looking to give people a shot, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, no, that is. We've not had a manager in a long time who's wanted to bring youth in. I think Puel did it to a certain extent. You know, he gave Harrison Reed a few goes. He brought Stevens in when he didn't really have a choice. I remember that pre-season he played Valerie a bit, which got his attention. Hesketh played a bit under him. Sims made his debut. You know, there's good players in and about the youth academy. I mean, I know Hughes loaned quite a few out, which probably looking back now isn't what we wanted to see. But, you know, it is what it is. And it's, you know, I think we were all starting to question the ability of the youth academy a little bit. I think now we've got a little bit more faith. So, you know, let's see how they go, because I think everyone that's come in this season, from an under 23 or etc. has stepped up to the first team well. Obafemi's played well. He bagged at Huddersfield. You know, he looks quick. You know, his hold-up play looks good. He's 18. He just needs to learn. I think it'll just come with more and more first-team game experience. Maybe a loan spell next season might do him good, where he'll just learn when to be clinical, learn when to not, because the best way you can learn is by playing consecutive games. You know, Ramsey played well when he came on, when he made his start. I thought Slattery played really well, actually, to be fair. I was really impressed with him. You just sort of go from there. The youth players that have come in and started and made their debuts so far this season have impressed me.
I would say that the only thing about Slattery yesterday was there were a couple of instances where he lost the ball in midfield, which happens. Romeu's guilty of it, Ward-Prowse is guilty. Everybody's guilty of it from time to time. But he lost the ball and it led to chances for Derby County, and I think they only capitalized on one of them. But he gave it away so high up the pitch that we should have been able to stop the attack there. So I wouldn't put that on him. But there was, I think, one time where he lost the ball and immediately the striker was played through and just couldn't get out of his feet fast enough to get by Vestergaard, which says something because, like we said before, he's not the fastest or the fleetest of foot. But yeah, I mean, you think about a first team debut. You think about being chucked in the middle of a midfield and alongside somebody like Ward-Prowse, who is not the typical kind of destroyer. You know, he's not Romeu, so you know he's going to be cleaning up every little mess that there is, or he's not Højbjerg, who has all this energy, you can run up and down, or Lamina, who can do the same thing. So, he's put in there alongside Ward-Prowse, and there's got to be, I think they're kind of similar in terms of how they play, but that's okay.
I'd agree.
Fine. But let's get into the goals, because I'll be honest that watching this game, I didn't feel like there was a lot of intensity in the entire thing. I felt like it was kind of lackluster. Redmond, I don't know if they're going to give him the goal officially or not. We'll see. But he scores to open the game kind of in the third or fourth minute. It looks like it's going to maybe just go in off the post on its own, and then the Derby captain turns it into his own goal. So we're up 1-0. And really, after that, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 real points of that I've even written anything down about, because I just felt like I was watching a game where the ball was going back and forth and everybody was running around, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, I think it probably wasn't a high intensity performance. It was more sort of a control performance. This is what I heard a lot on the highlights as well. That we seem to be in control of the game quite a lot. I think it's 2-0 as well. If we'd have got one more goal, the game would have been killed off. Led from a mistake to get there first, and then the second one was an emphatic finish from Lawrence. But he's a quality player who can do that at that level. But yeah, you're right. We didn't really have much intensity. We didn't really need to have much intensity, though. I don't think Derby came at us with much intensity either.
Right.
It was just one of those where it was, because it wasn't a high pressing Premier League team that play in a certain style or way, we can probably take a more controlled approach to the game, and I think we did that well. We have an extra game now, which people might see as a bad thing, but it brings Højbjerg back for Everton. So
that's true.
In my eyes, it's a tactical masterclass.
That's the. I think that's the silver lining in it all. And what I could say is that I would say the end of the first half, after we went up, it was a very kind of professional performance, and that we managed the game really well, even if we didn't have all of the intensity that we would associate with the team in recent weeks. And going into halftime 1-0, it's not the greatest scoreline, but it's fine. And I felt really comfortable with it. Then we opened the scoring Redmond with an absolutely beautiful goal to open the second half. And I felt like after that, though, the performance shifted a little bit. It went from us having control and just being kind of professional about carrying out, passing the ball and doing the right things. I felt like we lost our shape a couple of times on both goals. You see Stevens is way forward on one of them, kind of making a run, and then we lose the ball. And I don't think they actually scored on that one, but I just think they passed through us just way too easily because I think we just took our foot off the gas. And I think that once they got the first goal back, there was no way for us to turn it back on. Like we had made that mistake of kind of letting off, and then all of a sudden Derby were back in the game and they were hungry for it, and we couldn't do anything about it. And I think maybe a little bit of something to do with the lack of intensity was Derby had that stadium that was only not even halfway full, I don't think. There was a whole end of the stadium that wasn't even where nobody was seated. And I think that I mean, you can just imagine all the intensity just draining out of that end of the stadium because the atmosphere just wasn't there.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I don't even know, because I looked at the ticket prices. They weren't actually that bad. I think if I was to have gone, it would have been like £17 for me or something like that. I think season ticket holders were able to buy a ticket for about a tenner if they bought it before a certain date. So, you know, we could have quite easily done our bit. For them, I don't know. Their fan base isn't really great, is it? I mean, it's good for a championship club, but you know, you have to be there all the time. I don't care whether it's a cup game or not. I want the ground to be full. In regards to taking our foot off the gas, I think that's partly true. And then I think at 2-0 down, Derby, Lampard's probably gone and said to Derby, well, you've got nothing to lose now because you're already losing. You may as well go and give them everything. And then if we concede, you know, it's no real loss because we're already losing as it is.
You know, and when Derby does go and get the first goal, I took some screenshots of the Southampton FC Twitter account. And at the time that I did it, it was about 20 minutes after they had actually scored the first goal. And it says Jake Marriott finds the bottom corner to cut Saints FC's lead in half 2-1. 9 comments, like, you know, and generally on Twitter, you look, you know, if you talk about people getting ratioed, which means they have way more comments to the number of likes and retweets, because generally likes and retweets are signs that people agree with you, whereas comments are generally signs that people are disagreeing or are unhappy with the post. And you go to the next goal where it says it's a superb strike from Tom Lawrence to level the score. And it's got 47 comments and 26 likes. And you can see just at that point, people were upset, and I was one of them. You know, I jokingly made a thing of, here's a link to a new Amazon keyboard if you need, because you freaking smashed the one that you have. And I was so frustrated because of what I said before, that we were backing off from players. We were lazy in the way we defended. We didn't do enough to stop the attack. And then we just let Tom Lawrence just kind of run into space and have a go. And, you know, he beats Angus Gunn from distance, but I think that's all on our defense. I think it's a little bit on Cedric for not closing him down, especially because they had 2 center backs behind him and everybody was just backing off. But, you know, oh well. And even after that, we put subs on. Johnson comes on, Barnes comes on, unable to really affect the game. And now we're moving on, and we have a replay in something like 9 or 10 days from the time of recording, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah, you're completely right. I think, I don't know, it's you got to give Ralph time. You know, he's trying to fix years of problems. The problem the bottling league didn't come under Hughes, they come under Puel, they came under Pellegrino. Slowly but surely we'll get there. I think we've got the right man for the job. I think it just needs time, you know, and I think potentially he needs a result like this so he can get into the players and just, you know, go scream at them, because at the end of the day they need to learn that bottling a 2-goal lead is not acceptable. But it shows a lot about a manager, how how we'll react in the next game after going like that. Will we be more professional? Will we see a game out against Leicester? I don't know. It depends. You don't have any guarantees in football, but the only guarantee I think that we're going to have is that he's going to work them really hard this week. And, he's going to focus on positioning and defensive stability. We going really well against Chelsea. I mean, granted, it was most of the back 4/5 that you'd expect to play played against Derby. Maybe you take Stevens out and throw Bednarek in, and that'll probably be the back 4 that will play against Leicester. Back 5 if you include Gunn. You'd probably have a different midfield. You'd probably be Romeo and Lamina. Højbjerg's out, isn't he? So it may be Romeo, Lamina and Prowse, or it may be just Romeo, Lamina and Armstrong. And then you'll have probably Redmond and Austin you're going to go with, or Long. I'm not 100% sure who he's going to start. They're both not great. I don't see any reason why you couldn't give Gabbiadini a go.
So literally 2 minutes ago, as you were talking, Sky Sports Premier League put out a tweet, says, quote, "Sure, we have had bids and we have to decide, and he has to decide where he wants to go." And that's talking about Manolo Gabbiadini in terms of bids are in. It looks like he's off for sure. And that, as much as of a lift that he gave the team when he came in, scoring those goals, the League Cup and all that stuff. Is this the 4th manager, I guess, that hasn't really thought or fit him into the system or utilized him, and maybe it just isn't working out,
Yeah, I mean, I love to play for bits. I don't know. I think Pellegrino sort of ruined him a little bit. I think he came into the start of that season, he scored a couple of goals, and then suddenly out of nowhere he got dropped. Then he came back in, scored again, scored the goal that kept us up. He scored this season as well when Hughes needed him to. I don't know. I don't know whether we've got a system that suits him. It's a big name. You could tell Puel was a fan of him and wanted to play him. Maybe it's probably best for all parties if he goes. Because I don't know. He seems to have lost his way.
Yeah, for sure.
And we all know the quality that he has. And to not see it's frustrating, but I don't think he's had in turn the opportunities that the other strikers at the club have had.
Yeah. I think
he's
definitely.
Austin and Long have been given a lot more game time and a lot more credit, but Gabby seems to get more stick for only getting 20 minutes here or there and not doing anything.
Yeah. I think you're right there. Some of the other stuff, obviously Austin is charged by the FA for signaling the number of goals we were down to Manchester City by to all the fans, which I have no issue with. Yoshida's gone. We talked about that. Gabbiadini, we talked about that. The other thing, other than Forster, which we're coming to, is Davis, who it's almost for sure that he is going to go. Now it's looking like potentially a 6-month loan deal, which I'm sure by the time we actually release this will be other information will come out, and this is the January transfer window where everything changes and is usually wrong until it actually happens. But I think, as much as we can say anything about him, he's been great. He's been one of those players that has been there almost the entire time that I've watched the team. So he's one of those guys that you can see him kind of progress in terms of having a real couple of good years and now leaning more towards a senior figure in terms of watching over younger players and kind of coaching them along and being kind of a role model, I guess, for them rather than, playing week in, week out and really captaining the side from the field, if that makes sense.
To be honest, I love Davis a bit. But yeah, it's one of those where I don't really want to lose him because of the presence that he has in the dressing room and his experience and his seniority. But at the end of the day, he still plays for Northern Ireland every time they play. He still captains them every game they have. But he's just not that fit. Whether it's just a loan deal out at Rangers or whether they sign him permanently, I don't know. But he needs game time. He really does. And at the minute, I don't think he's going to get it. I don't see whereabouts in the system he fits in, which is real shame because the decline of the man that we all saw when he came in to probably, I don't know, till when he got his injury last season, he was immense. You know, you could tell he'd lost a bit, but he always gave 110%. He was role model. He was efficient, everything that he did. He had a little bit of flair about him as well, which I don't think many people noticed. I think, you know, he did a little few flicks here and there that came off that sort of go under the radar because he's probably not Lionel Messi or like a foreign player that's worth like 500 million when really we only got him for 750,000.
You think back to when he had maybe his best little run. You can think back to games when we had Mane in the side, when we had Tadic in the side, Davis and Pella, and that was just lethal. And he was doing things in there, and he was, like you said, he was overshadowed by some of those other guys. But I think he really made things turn over and took over, and I think he did a great job then. All right, so let's move on and answer some questions. And you can send your questions in on Twitter, on Instagram, or Facebook. You can DM them to me. You can do whatever it is that you need to get them in. There's always a post before the show. And if you are a Patreon member, which you can do at patreon.com/SFC delivery, you get priority for answering your questions on the show, except for this week because I forgot to post it on the Patreon site. So I apologize. Great way to start the new year, I guess, by setting the expectations low for me actually remembering to do my job. But I apologize. So we have a number of questions here, so we won't obviously answer them all, but we can pick some that we really want to get to. So, Aydin, you're looking at them. We'll start with this one, and then you can look over the ones that you want to actually address here. So, Dan, who's at Holy Hoiberg, says, if you could take, I'm paraphrasing here, if you can take one of these ladies to coffee, who would it be? Lily James, Emma Watson, or Rachel Riley? I had to actually look two of them up because I didn't know who they were. I wanted to make sure they were not some sort of foreign escort lady, but they're not. So that's nice. So who would you want to take to coffee if you could?
Well, I haven't really thought about it. Probably have to be Emma Watson just because I fancied her when I was younger. So, you know, and then at least I could say I've gone out for coffee with someone from Harry Potter as well.
Isn't she a Chelsea fan? Is that who she is?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never actually seen who she supports.
It says Emma Watson, Chelsea. Yep. I decided to support Chelsea. Well, that's great.
Oh. Well, not her anymore then.
That's all right. That's all right. All right. So actual kind of questions here. Thanks, Dan, for sending that in. Christian Candler says, if you could be a scout for Ralph, who would you recommend to him for the January window? So I guess that takes into account a number of other things. Do we need a center back? Do we need replacements up front? Who's maybe a person or two that you would recommend?
I don't know. We need quite a lot in the team at the minute. Yeah, probably first thought may go down to centre back or a striker. It's difficult. It depends on what if he'd come to me and say, "This is what we want to look at first."
Or this is who's leaving, right? Like if Gabbiadini leaves, if Long leaves, then you definitely have to address that because Ings has fitness issues, Austin has fitness issues, Obafemi's currently out injured. You can't. We need goals in the team, and right now there's just not enough of them.
No, that's correct. I'd probably I don't know. Maybe throw in another Danish international in Nikolai Jorgensen. He's more sort of like a Pella sort of player. His hold-up play is very good. He's very good aerially, and then maybe have him as a different option. Because at the minute, I don't feel we have that option in the squad. Obviously, especially with Carrillo out on loan. He's a proven goal scorer. He's been clinical at Feyenoord as well. But he'd probably be on the seat coming from Holland. His wages wouldn't be too expensive. I don't see any reason why we couldn't go for someone like that.
All right.
Obviously, as Saints fans, we do what we do. We look at where the managers come from and then start suddenly looking into every player in the Bundesliga and being like, let's go sign him because we're all experts when we've gone and looked on Wikipedia and watched a load of YouTube clips and all the rest of it.
I think you've nailed it. I'll just leave it there. The similar question came from Albin Jason, who asked who we think we should buy. So that takes care of that one as well. The one question here that I would like to, there are a couple of them, but one of them is Oscar Dean just says Gunn or McCarthy. And I think I'm unclear as to whether or not this Gunn getting a run of games now means McCarthy is done or not. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it. And I don't know if I'd be happy about that or not, or how this works.
Yeah, to be honest, I've got the same sort of stance as you do. I'm a big fan of McCarthy because, well, it's difficult. He's made a lot of mistakes this season, and people have been rightly so to point out. But I think, I don't know what it is. I just feel like the minute he makes a mistake, people are calling for his head already. Obviously, there's a few goals this season that he could have done better with. Probably the one at Huddersfield comes to mind, and City's third. But then you look at some of the saves that he made last season, and we know what he's capable of. Personally, McCarthy, but if Gunn fits the system more, then you've got to go with a player that suits the system, haven't you?
I think so. And I think that when you get your opportunity, I don't think Gunn came in assuming he was going to be the number one, but I think Gunn came in with maybe assuming that, or under the influence or thought that he was going to have a chance to prove himself. And I think that in his performances, he's done those. He's done that. He's held himself up and said, you can't ask him to do much more than what he's done. He's been in command of his back line. He has been active in sweeping up behind a slow defensive unit, which I think is important. He's put his body on the line. There were a couple of his distribution has been okay. It could be better. But yeah, I mean, I can't really fault him for that. And I think that, I don't know. I also think it's difficult for McCarthy, who's had to endure kind of a really poor run of games under Hughes, and when none of the team was playing well, and now Angus Gunn's coming in and getting these starts under Hasenhüttl, and all of a sudden, he has a couple of good games, and we're all kind of really, really liking that. And I think that's maybe a little bit, it's harder to be McCarthy and shine every single week when McCarthy when Gunn has a smaller sample size. So I don't know. It's super difficult, and I'm happy to see Gunn play. The whole goalkeeper situation is a little bit baffling at this point. We have some really, extremely high wages and a lot of people in the team, and we have 3 England internationals. Granted, Gunn is still at the youth level or the under 23 level or whatever it is, but he's still there, and so we have a lot of guys in that circle. So yeah. We have time for another question. Let's talk about a little bit about some of the loanees that are coming back. This question comes from the In That Number podcast, who is at Number Podcast. If you haven't listened to them, you should check them out. It says, are you looking forward to seeing any of our loanees coming back? And who do you think will fit best under Ralph Hasenhüttl? And we have, I think, Sims has come back. Hesketh has come back, but he's injured. And I think Flanagan is also back from Burton Albion. I think everybody else has stayed out, as far as I know, till right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, any of these guys coming back in, you would think that as soon as Hesketh gets injured, maybe he'd get a shot. But you have to think they'd be somewhat excited about coming back into a team where youth is actually being given a chance. And just off the top of my head, based on the effort that Sims has put forth in recent weeks or in recent performances for Saints, granted, he hasn't really been able to get into a Reading squad, which is disappointing. But you would think that he would fit the system just fine, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think Sims is probably one of our best youth academy products around at the minute. I think he'd fit into the system exactly, especially if we're gonna lean more sort of to the 4-2-2, the essential of 4-4-2 with the 2 wingers. Him and Redmond or Armstrong, he could be in around the 3 creative we've got going behind a striker, which would be really good. Unless Redmond's put more forward as a second striker with Ings, and then you've got Sims and Armstrong with Lamina Højbjerg. Hesketh would also suit the system, I think. he's probably not physically as strong, but technically very good. And I think that would do us good. Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to seeing them two come back. Maybe Harrison Reed next season as well. Because I think Clarkey's going to go to Feyenoord on a 3. Harrison Reed might just show that cover for Romeo that we've sort of missed. I don't really know about Sam McQueen. I've not really, he did okay, but I don't really rate him. He's can sort of cover for Target and Bertrand in my eyes. But yeah, more sort of the 3 of Sims, Hesketh and Reed when he comes back would be interesting to see how they integrate with the first team squad.
Sure. We did get some questions from Instagram, but we talked about it because Lasso, who's at IH7612, said, who should we start now? In goal, Gunn, or McCarthy? So thanks for sending that in. And then Hassan Tariq on Facebook, he says, do you fear Vardy will exploit Vestergaard and Benderak's lack of pace next week? And I think yes, and I think the way we combat that is probably by making sure that we press the ball high up the pitch and don't allow them to distribute the ball effectively to him. So I think it's going to be a combination of that, and then probably having Angus Gunn in goal being very active and aware and just kind of sweeping up behind. And I think that's how we address that. Overly simplistic, of course, and watch it all fall apart as soon as I say that. So anyway, Aydin, despite all of my mistakes, I think we have managed to put together an episode that hopefully after I edit it, nobody will know.
Yeah. Let's hopefully we'll be good. It'll be good. I'll listen to it when I'm on the train back to Manchester or something.
All right.
But
all right. I've had a bit of a nightmare. But
it's fine. Get it out of the system with me, and then hopefully it'll be done.
Yeah. You hope, right?
I hope
and
so.
At least I'm on vacation still, so I have some time to clean it up before it goes out. So
you've got a lot of time to clean it up.
But yeah, so I mean, thanks for coming on again. I appreciate it, and we'll have Jamie on next week after the Leicester match, and looking forward to that. So
yeah, I am as well, actually.
Yeah, we'll get it all done. So Aydin, we'll have a great rest of the day. I know it's we've bled into the 3:00 kickoffs or afternoon kickoffs for the FA Cup, but it's all right.
It's all right. I don't think it's on. It doesn't come on TV till 4:00. So you're fine.
That's right. Sundays are 4:00 because I don't know why. Just because they don't want me to watch it apparently. So anyway,
yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Mate. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day anyway.
That does it for episode 104 of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Aydin Osman. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram. He's on Twitter at Aydin_Osman96 and on Instagram at AydinOsman96. Aydin is also part of the Southampton page, which is the official partner page of the show. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram and get all your Southampton FC news and needs, especially helpful during the January transfer window, where everything is wrong until it actually happens. Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page and soon-to-be employee of the Southampton Football Club does the artwork for the show. Matt was on episode 100 to help me bring in kind of, triple digits. And he's a great guy. So if you don't follow that page, if you are not up to date with his edits, you should do that because I think it is something that I've really enjoyed and I look forward to. And I also just really appreciate his work after touching Photoshop and not knowing what the heck's going on. If you want to follow this show on social media, you can do so. We are on Twitter and Instagram at SFCDELL_IVERY. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. You can email the show at southamptondelivery@gmail.com. And be careful if you're searching for the show on any podcast platform, because there's 2 L's and autocorrect will get you every time, and you'll wind up with a pizza in Southampton, even if you live in the middle of the United States. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. We'll be back next week with Jamie from the Southampton page. And you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts to be sure you get that one as well. And until then, remember that together, we march on.